Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Keep It Real podcast. Today we are joined by Cindy, all the way down, GQ from Huntington Zone HCW Wrestling. We have Destiny and myself, Amanda. We welcome you all. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
Good. Excited to have you here.
Excited to be here. I'm just looking forward to see what you guys got to ask of me, I should say. So, what questions do you have?
So, GQ, you are a current wrestler for the HCW promotion. That's what, Huntington Championship Wrestling, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a part of, you guys are in just Huntington solely, or?
I mean, we are basically Huntington exclusive. I mean, we during the pandemic we did some shows at our good friend Moose's place. We were doing shows there, just COVID shows, no real crowd. You know, a couple of people because we could only have so many people at the time. But other than that, we're mainly just sticking with Huntington. Huntington's where a lot of us are from, and we prefer the area.
Very nice, very nice. So, just a shout out if you want to catch GQ today in time. It is Huntington, West Virginia. It's Huntington Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
So,
You now have a shirt coming up on the 28th, right?
Yeah, I got to show it this Sunday, the 28th, and I'm going to be going one-on-one with my former tag team partner, Jarrett Cage. I already beat up my former tag team partners, Chris Phoenix and Ryan Reed, at the last show, and now we've got another show coming up, and I'm going to be taking on my former #ego stablemate one-on-one. Gotta kind of kick him out of the business too. I'm kind of sick of him, so.
well, just to clarify, just real quick, you say you've retired Ryan Reed. That would be my husband. I will say, although he had retired previously, before all of that, you never know what may surprise you. He does have a few tricks up his sleeve once every now and again.
He usually does. He's definitely getting to be the Terry Funk of West Virginia. So yeah, that's the 28th, Second Presbyterian Church, 6:05 p.m. I'm going to be stepping in the ring with Jarrett Cage. I also have a show for this championship coming up. It's the debut show of Combat Championship Wrestling. I'm still learning where the venue is going to be. I literally inboxed it. Was like, hey, where's it at? Because you got a date already planned. So we'll see. But it is July 8th in Huntington, West Virginia. Stay tuned. Feel free to follow me on Facebook. I'm probably going to be getting back on Twitter soon at TheGCute. Feel free to follow me.
Destin, you were saying you had some questions you wanted to ask him. How does somebody get into wrestling?
I mean, of course, you have to get trained. There's a lot of training and work that goes into it. It takes a long time to actually perfect the craft. Unfortunately, in the business right now, there are some people, and there's always been people that have done it, but it's become more prevalent that people don't. They're not doing things the right way in a lot of ways, but some of them are. There are some good, legitimate pro wrestling schools in the area. There's one called Power Slam Wrestling Academy. It's run by Chance Profit.
Beautiful person, by the way, Chance Profit. Shout out, bud. I haven't seen you in a long time, but
Yep.
It's good people.
Yep.
Very good people.
Joe Pace also has a pro wrestling school. He's been training a lot of people, and he's got a lot of legitimate people there training. So that's another school I'll shout out. And like I mentioned earlier, our good friend Moose, he also has one. I believe it's in Taze Valley, the same place that we were doing shows at. So there's 3 different really good pro wrestling schools to learn from in the area. You learn the basics starting out. You learn how to do like bumping, so you can learn how to fall. So that way you're learning to protect yourself as much as possible whenever you're actually getting thrown around, because it can be very painful. So getting into wrestling, you got to find the right trainer, a good quality trainer. You got to work on getting in shape. Not that I am, but you got to work on that. And it's the best way to start out. But the best advice I could give you would be stay humble. That's something that I didn't know when I started. I went in thinking I knew everything. I had, and I'm probably not supposed to talk about it, but I don't care. Full disclosure, I did backyard wrestling. I was not fully trained. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I went there thinking I did. I learned some of the basics and then suddenly thought I was a pro wrestler. I went back and I paid my dues. And part of paying dues is, setting up the ring, helping with chairs, helping with getting the show together so you can help create that show. I did things like run lighting when I trained. So like they would have me help with their lighting, their camera work, stuff like that, just to get your foot in the door and build that rapport and show that you respect the guys that have already been there before you, guys and girls. It's a very, very important aspect of the business. It's something that we need to get back to instilling to the younger people. And like I said, stay humble because not everybody should be a wrestler that is. Not everybody belongs in wrestling. Everybody has a place in it. Not everybody belongs in the ring. But if you have the talent for it, you have the desire, the drive, then that's where you go get trained and find out if it is a good place for you. So that's definitely the advice that I would give to somebody that wants to get into the business right now. Like I said, find a really good wrestling school. Don't just take anybody's word for it. There are a couple of trainers in the area that claim to be trainers that will just take your money. Find someone that you know is reputable. Listen to the boys in the good shows in the area, the higher end shows that draw bigger crowds and stuff like that, because they have gone through a lot of the right routes in a lot of cases, and they can tell you where to go.
So I do have one question, GQ. For those that are out there that just say wrestling's fake, with the hard work that I know you put into it, the hard work I know my husband has put into this business, what is your stance on the wrestling is fake mentality, and how would you say that mentality could be changed?
I think part of it's because so many people have been led into the wrestling business that shouldn't be. That it's caused a lot of respect issues, but people for decades have always called it fake. Fake's a dirty word in a lot of people's minds. It does irritate me because it kind of downplays the physicality of it. Regardless, it is absolutely a form of theater in its own right, and you do have to have a good combination of everything. But make no mistake, it is one of the most painful things you will ever do in your life, and if you do it over and over again for years upon years, you're going to be 37 years old and having problems walking around and having a bad back and all that, just like me. Now that I'm 47 and feel like I'm 77, it does take its toll. I will say, if you just say straight up, that stuff's stupid, that stuff's fake, you're dismissing a very, very difficult form of physical theater that hurts very badly, and a lot of guys work very, very hard to perfect their craft. One guy I'll mention, Jason Kincaid.
Yes.
One of the best talents in the area, but if you follow his Instagram, if you're watching him, that guy puts every ounce of his being into being the best professional wrestler he can. And it's paid off in some ways. He's had some good matches on Ring of Honor. He's had phenomenal matches with some of the best talents in the world. He's wrestled in Japan, and he should have been signed a decade ago, in my opinion. So, like, guys like that, and there's a new kid named Tyler Jacks, really good talent. He's learning a lot, and he's busting his butt, I'll say. I'm trying to just stay as PG as I can, especially in the building that we're in right now. But, yeah, I mean, Tyler Jacks is another one that he's actually been training with Jason a lot lately. He's been learning a lot of his tricks and a lot of that stuff, and that's somebody that has a wealth of knowledge. Guys like Jason Kincaid, I miss Scotty McKeever, Tracy Smothers. These guys were phenomenal that I got to learn from a little bit. I didn't learn as much from Scotty, but I met him. He's a great, great guy and wealth of knowledge. But I digress from the point. But still, yeah, that's as far as the fake thing goes. Like, if somebody's going out there and they're taking bumps and they're falling and they're hurting themselves, and they're putting their life and their body on the line, to just dismiss it as fake, regardless of if it's your form of entertainment, is still disrespectful in my opinion.
What made you want to be a professional wrestler?
I was a kid that loved wrestling growing up. Shoot, I remember it was probably about 93 or 94. I remember watching it was either WCW Saturday Night or WCW Worldwide. They had Sting versus Ric Flair as the first match I ever saw. And then when I saw that, I instantly fell in love with it. My parents thought I was stupid. My parents didn't like wrestling. My brother doesn't like wrestling. So it was just kind of like, why are you watching that fake crap? I heard it my whole life. And then after I did that, that's when I just became obsessed with it. Part of me wonders if I have Asperger's or something because it was so obsessive. I would go to the library to check out any wrestling books I could find or any videos, any DVDs. I went back and I was watching Bob Backlund stuff and Kurt Hennig stuff and old school Hogan from Japan and finding Japan tapes and stuff like that. And learned a lot more about wrestling than just what I saw on TV. And I grew up very poor, so we didn't have like cable very often. So I'd go to my grandmother's house and she had cable. I'd watch wrestling anytime I could, but I never got to watch Monday Night Raw very often. And then towards the end, whenever it was like late 90s when Nitro came around, I got to watch some of that stuff finally. But before that, it was always just like the WCW Saturday morning shows and stuff like that, like WWF Livewire and all those silly shows. But I still loved it, and like I said, I would go find VHS tapes. I had a friend named Aaron English, a very good friend of mine. He was a really good friend of Will's. He was at the show. He's one of the guys that walked me to the ring at the Willpower show. His dad was obsessed with wrestling, and he grew up with wrestling because his dad was obsessed with wrestling. So they had a library of VHS pay-per-views that they'd recorded because he would get every single pay-per-view and record it. So I'd be like, hey, can I borrow that Slammy Awards VHS tape? Or can I borrow that VHS tape? Can I borrow Great American Bash? Can I borrow that Slamboree Legends reunion? That sounds good. And I'd watch it, and I just loved it. But that's how I decided I wanted to get into it. Then when I got in middle school, I decided I wanted to do backyard wrestling because my good friend, that I'm not going to mention my name just by fear of heat, had his own backyard wrestling company in his garage right down the road from where I lived. So I went down, and a lot of the names that you see in this area, people that are training people that have worked for OVW and WWE shows and stuff like that, were in that backyard wrestling company. Then I decided to start my own backyard wrestling company, and I'm not afraid to tell this one, that featured Ryan Reed, and that's how long I've known him, and Chris Phoenix. They were my closest friends in the world in high school. So I had them, and then we had our friend Zach Smith, and we had our friend Shane Morrison, and our late friend Graham Bailey, and our late friend David Parsons. We all did backyard wrestling in my mom's backyard. We just put a blue tarp out and used tent stakes to put the tarp on the ground, and we went up there and killed ourselves for no money. And it's surprising. Of course, we were in high school. If you knew us back then, not only did we have a huge love for wrestling, but we also had a lot of heat with each other here and there because we were bickering because we were writing scripts, and we would literally write out 4 or 5 months of shows in advance on scripts on paper, and then I'd be like, well, I'm going to be champion here, and then we're going to defend the championship there, and then I'm going to beat you here, and you're going to, and they got sick of it because I was champion for 3 years, so I was really, like I said, I was young, cocky, egotistical, and had no business being that way, but I'm going too far into it, but yeah, that's how we got into wrestling. After that, we decided we wanted to get trained, so we went to Alan Lynch's and got trained with XMCW in Nitro, West Virginia. We went there. We had guys like Chance Prophet there helping to train us and Raw Talent. Not that one's one that I'm going to joking. I love Raw Talent. But yeah, it was. That's when we decided to go get trained. We went there. I shortly after started wrestling for He Who Shall Not Be Named. I'm not a big fan of someone, or I wasn't at the time. I've dropped any heat I have with anybody now. I'm at the points where I'm in that period in my life where the main thing that matters to me are my kids and of course my life with my family, my girlfriend, and work. Wrestling is my favorite thing in the world to do. It's like that's my escape from all of the drama and whatever else I might be going through in my personal life. So I get to go to wrestling. I get to have fun with my friends. I get to entertain a crowd. I get to go out there and talk about how amazing I am, even though it is what it is. But I enjoy it. It's like I said, it's like theater, just very painful. A lot more painful than regular theater.
So Amanda,
Yes.
I don't remember if you told everybody, but you wrestled yourself.
I did wrestle myself. And I would say this was probably back in 2007 through 2010 or 11. I started out in Wheeling, West Virginia. And I was mildly trained a little bit at that time. Had worked for a wonderful promotions, no longer in, they're no longer running anymore. But I ran by the name of Miss Kimball. Started off mostly as a valet. Had managed several different names throughout the state of West Virginia. And then I made my way from Wheeling to Parkersburg, West Virginia. And then down south towards Beckley, worked with NWA Mountain State for a little while. There I met Jason the Gift Kincaid. Again, I can't sing his praises well enough. That man is beyond a phenomenal wrestler, and it's not discrediting anybody else in this business, but if you see the work that he does, it's far above and beyond a lot of what you can see on TV nowadays. He is phenomenal. I got most of my training, although it was a short period of time that I was in the business, but I did get most of my training from Jason the Gift Kincaid. That is one patient man. Bless his heart. Then I went from Beckley to Huntington, West Virginia, where back in 2008 or 9, I met my husband. So it's a fun little road. There were a lot of experiences, a lot of different people that all have the same thing in common, and that love and passion for wrestling and the business. It's bar none one of the coolest things that I've ever been a part of, to say the least. So a lot of good camaraderie. Even though, there's some people I know that have had heat with each other for years, but far be it somebody from the outside hurt somebody else or insult somebody else, guess what? I bet your butt they're taking up for that person that they've squabbled with for years. So it was interesting.
Yeah,
For sure.
it's absolutely brotherhood.
It is.
It's one of those things like a lot of people, people say, this is my brother, this is my brother. With me, unless I consider them a brother, I don't really call them a brother, but I do have a lot of brothers and sisters in business. But of course, my closest, it's always going to be Chris Phoenix, Ryan Reed. Those guys, regardless of if I've had to beat them up at times, they're still my brothers. I still
The
love
word
them.
of the day, like a call out. The word of the day is called receipt. You get what you give, sir. So, but yes, they've been friends for forever, to quote Terry Funk.
So you all were both in business. I think it's really cool that you ended up marrying Ryan Reed. Have you all ever got to work together?
Not really. I would. I'm always open to it. She's my sister. I love her to death, so it is what it is. But
I have a mean open home, just letting you know.
I don't doubt that. You have to have something like that to put up with.
So, not to segue or anything, who was your biggest inspiration? Who did you aspire to be either like or similar to?
If Gorgeous George, Frank Sinatra, and Dusty Rhodes had a kid, that would
Yeah,
be.
that's nice. Yep, that's accurate.
Yeah, that's definitely what it would be. Like Dusty, Dusty's my favorite. I mean Ric Flair also, but like Ric Flair and Dusty are two of my favorites.
Shout out to Ric Flair.
Yes, Ric Flair is the greatest of all time. Dusty, I think, is one of the best underdog promos of all time. He's one of the best talkers. Like I said, that little bit of Frank Sinatra flair on there, it's kind of a, like I always wanted to, and that's where a lot of the gimmick comes from. Not that I am a gimmick, I'm living the gimmick, but the GQ thing, I always wanted to be a ladies' man type. It was kind of an extension of the personality that I really wanted to have. And it's one of the things I was able to lean into really well because I was a little bit cocky back then. And I've always been a decent talker. So like that's one of the things that I'm good at is talking. And then like I put so much effort into trying to train and become a wrestler when I was younger. And then after I got to where I could do what I could do and I realized I wasn't going to be great at certain things, I was like, well, I have to evolve the best character I possibly can. So I've got to be able to start talking and talking people into the stands and cutting the promos. And that's where the gimmick comes into play. So like, I do the GQ thing, sexiest man in the wrestling business, blah, blah, blah. To tell you how much effort I put into the gimmick, these glasses right here were ordered off of Amazon.
Wow.
Guess what I searched for to find these glasses?
Sexiest glasses, huh?
Close. In the search bar, I typed Andrew Tate sunglasses. So that's. Yeah. Oh man, I couldn't be too proud of that. But I got to be the most dastardly heel possible. So got to make people hate me. It's what I'm good at.
So Destiny, she has shared with me and Amanda and Corey that she is really interested in becoming a professional wrestler.
Okay.
That's why she was saying she really had some questions for you, and now she's even got a nickname. We decided to call her, what was it, Amanda?
The Neon Enigma.
Ooh.
Tell me that's not great, right?
I like that.
See? So, I'll tell you as well, I mean, for somebody that is wanting to get into the business as a female, there are a lot of also wonderful female athletes in the state of West Virginia. Phenomenal female athletes. I know back in my day, I should say, we had Sarah Lynn. I don't know if you remember her.
Oh, of
She was
course.
awesome.
She hated me.
Yeah, she did. But there's Colby Max.
Colby Max is
Colby Max
she's
is
phenomenal.
awesome. She is great up and coming. I know she's working a lot with ASW, I believe, with your neighbor.
She has been
She has.
right now. I don't know if it's an injury or what, but she's not wrestling, but she is currently being an interviewer for HCW, and she's doing backstage interview stuff. And she did that at our last event and blew me away because I knew she could work, but I hadn't really seen her cut many promos other than a couple on like Instagram that I've seen. She's actually a really good talker, so I see her having a ton of potential because that's one of the things that like a lot of people they discredit nowadays because everything's about the athletic spots, which are great. I have no disrespect for anybody that does like the athletic spot stuff, but like right now, I would say as much as some people might hate him, the number one guy or one of the number one guys, one of the top guys in the business right now is MJF. And he's a phenomenal wrestler. But if he didn't know how to talk people into the stands, he wouldn't be the draw that he is. He can talk. That's why CM Punk, as much as, he's very polarizing, a lot of people hate him, a lot of people love him. That's the one thing he has going for him is he's authentic and he can talk.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing that I think that needs to be brought back is the ability to talk people into the stands. It's one thing that is lacking in some ways, just because everybody's figured out the athleticism, and the athleticism is beyond what anything I thought it could be, especially right now in this area. There's so many young athletes in the local business that are close to or just as good or getting to be just as good as the guys you see on TV. You know,
Absolutely.
I see a lot of the guys, and that's the one thing that breaks my heart is that AEW didn't exist when Ryan Reed was in his 20s.
Right.
Because I think Ryan Reed and Chris Phoenix, when they were tagging earlier, they had all the potential in the world to make it. I think if they'd have kept going at the pace they were going, they would have at least made it to Ring of Honor, or at least made a couple of appearances at Ring of Honor. They should have. They absolutely deserved it.
Lord knows they traveled. Oh, they are very well traveled, as you are as well.
But now that's the one thing that I like is with social media being so prevalent is there's so many places for people to work now. It used to not be that way for a long time after WWF bought WCW. All you had was WWF, and because of lack of social media being what it is today, people hadn't heard of independent wrestling. You go to a lot of people that are big WWF fans, WWE fans, be like, we got a show down here, and be like, is any WWF guys on it? And it's like, not really. It's just it's a local show with guys that are a lot of them are just as good as what you can see on TV, and you'll get a lot better of a show because it's more personalized.
I agree.
And they're like, well, I don't want to go see that crap. Like that's like people look down. Now people are finally starting to get awareness. So you got these even lower level indie companies getting good crowds, and then you've got these like ASW Battleground Wrestling. Hopefully soon, Huntington Championship Wrestling, of course. Hopefully soon, Combat Championship Wrestling. And like Joe Pace's company over in Ironton, FTC, they do really well. There's a lot of legitimate shows with legitimate talent, and they're finally getting seen, and some of them are actually making a little bit of money on the indie scene. I can't tell you, I went probably 2 years without getting paid more than $10. Like, it was really bad.
As the old
Back
saying, you did really well if you got a hot dog and a handshake.
Yeah, it
That's
really
what
was.
it is. I will say this much, for those out there that are watching, if it's something that you think you might like, I guarantee you there will be a wrestling show somewhere within the vicinity of where you live. Check out the flyers. Go to these shows. It's absolutely an experience that you will never get to experience again, unless you go back, of course, that's another thing. But you get to see your local talent and the effort that they put in to entertain their hometown crowd. And hometown crowds, I will tell you this much, mean so much to these wrestlers, to these athletes. They mean hometown crowds are the world. And for you to have that kind of a support for your homegrown folks, you never know who's going to make it too. So you can be the first person to see, some little, teenage 20-something-year-old in an independent ring in the independent circuit that makes it big.
Yeah.
I know you have a proper example as well.
So this is the young
Tell that story.
GQ. And that guy down there that I'm giving a 5-knuckle shuffle to, and that's actually what I did in that match, is Ricochet.
Oh, nice.
That's at Fairfield East Community Center on 28th Street and 8th Avenue. There's a lot of instances like that, like there are guys that I've been on shows with, that even guys I didn't know that I was on shows with, that I'll go back and look at results and it's like, oh, Sammy Guevara was on the show.
Yep.
I'm like, oh yeah, I worked on a show with Sammy Guevara. I didn't work a match with him, but I was on the same show as him. So you got Sammy Guevara, there's guys that I have been in the ring with, like a Ricochet, I've been in the ring with some of the legends and stuff as well. Like, that's one of the things that I love, is just being, I know MJF was on a show in Nitro once that I was on. You just never know. You never know who's going to make it. So if you're showing up there, you're supporting your local guy, and the next thing you know, you're seeing them on WWE, you'd be like, man, I know that kid. I used to hang out with that kid. That kid went to school with me, and then you'd be like, I got a friend that wrestled that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I get that all the time. But that's one of the things that's great about these local shows is you go to them, you get sometimes some of the most entertaining guys out there, myself included. But yeah, you get a good entertaining show. You get more bang for your buck a lot of times than you get with these WWE house shows. People paying $400 to go see. I've actually seen. I know somebody bought a WWE Superstar Experience. No hate on them, they're wrestling fans, and that's great. But they paid $600 for a house show, front row seat, and they got to meet. I think it was Billy Kay, who was in Iconics at the time, and somebody else. And I was like, for $15, you could have come down and watched a show that was guys really busting their butts out. Yeah, not that those guys don't, no disrespect to WWE, but just you get a lot of really good talent, really good efforts, and you get to see people as they're coming up. And that's one of the things it's one of the reasons I'm still enjoying what I'm doing, because I'm getting to work with some of these younger guys. And I'm like, oh, I can, I may not be able to have the best, most athletic match with them, but I can teach them something. And I can make them look good by going out there, doing my job, making the crowd hate me. And then when I get my butt kicked, it's like, oh, wow, that guy won. He got a big pop. The crowd knows who he is. Next thing I know, he's out there signing autographs. He's, shaking hands with kids, and he's making money off of the fact that he got over with the match that he had with me. So that right there is the biggest thing for me right at this point in my life and my career. Like I said, my kids, my job, my family, that's everything.
So, Cindy, I know that you have you've been to a lot of independent shows in the area, is that right? A lot of wrestling shows. What, to our viewers, I mean, I know there is a scrapbook, I see.
Yes.
How many, off the top of your head, how many people, famous people, famous wrestlers have you met, if you could ballpark that number?
You mean recently or my whole life?
All together.
I will tell you, I have met Tommy Wildfire Rich. I have met
That's
Ric
awesome.
Flair. I met Bob and Brad Armstrong. I met Rick Rude. I have met Stone Cold Steve Austin in a bar.
I
Kid
met
you not. You wrestled him?
No, I met him.
Oh,
No.
Manny Fernandez, the Flying Burrito. See Ronnie Garvin and Jimmy Garvin.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from Corey,
Mm.
Rodney, GQ, let's see. There's a couple more that I don't really care to mention. I'm sure you have the same experience. But Bobby Blaze.
Oh,
He's
Bobby.
a really good guy.
I actually had a good conversation with him at the Bluegrass WrestleCon that I was on. Bobby was there. I walked over to him and talked to him for a minute. He and I had a bad instance that happened at a show once. There was a promoter, rest in peace, that wasn't a fan of my work and used me and Chris Meeks and I, we were hashtag Money Team. I did some things that rubbed him the wrong way. So basically what I did, I just walked over to him, just like, hey man, I know we've had heat in the past, but I've got nothing but respect for you, and I hope you know that there's no bad feelings, harsh feelings. It's not a big deal with me anymore. I had to do some growing up, and I have. And he was just like, the fact that you walked over and talked to me, he's like, don't even worry about it. He was like, we're really cool. He's like, I appreciate, that this shows me the human you are. So he said, he was like, no big deal. So I'm glad I got to make amends with him.
That's awesome.
Him and Jake Roberts ago. When I met Jake Roberts down in Bluefield again, at the, what was it, Prince? No, it was Bluefield.
Probably Prince.
Beckley. Bash at Beckley.
Bash Beckley.
ASW. Gary Dameron. The biggest wrestling company in West Virginia, in my opinion, bar none. They're as legit as it gets. But he had Jake on the show, and Jake and I. Well, let me. Jake probably doesn't even remember me, but I hated Jake Roberts for the longest time to the point that it was like it ate me up inside. I won't go into the details because I've told this story a million times, but like I had a match with Jake in 2007 at Remedies for 304 Wrestling back in the day. Long story short, there was a miscommunication with me, him, and the promoter. I was told that I was allowed to say whatever I wanted to say and bring up his drug references and whatever else because the rumor was he wasn't there because he had not made it to 2 shows prior to that. This is when he was in his worst stages on his drug addiction and everything. So like he showed up, he walked in, they snuck him in the door, and they were like, pretend he's not here, go out and say whatever you want to. And I was just like, cool. So I'm at a bar show, which by the way, Jake Roberts at that bar show was probably not a good idea anyways at the time.
At the time,
But I was known for saying things at that point that were over the top and way too offensive and stuff like that. And I went out there. I just wanted the crowd to hate me so that way when I knew when his music hit, he would get the biggest pop he deserved. And so I went out and I just spouted out my regular stuff. And then I called him a crack smoking SOB.
don't do that, folks. No.
Especially when you haven't actually discussed exactly what you want to say with someone like that. And he took offense to it, obviously, which, full disclosure, he was there with Bruce Jones, who was our commissioner at the time. And because Bruce Jones was the only black man in the back, was actually trying to get crack off of him. So, like, it was pretty valid that I was saying that. But I called him that, and he took offense to it. He was trying to smash a beer bottle. He was going to try to come out and stab me. But he didn't. But then they hit his music. He went out. I'm in the ring, have no clue he's even mad at me. I'm thinking we're doing exactly what we talked about in the back, because we only talked for like 30 seconds about what he wanted to do. And I'm thinking he's going to turn me around. He's going to give me a few haymakers or a few jabs and then a haymaker. He pulls me around and smacks me as hard as he can. I fell down against the middle rope, and I just remember thinking, this is not right. Something's wrong. So, like, then he picks me up, and he's like, who said you can call me an effing crackhead? Who said you can say that about me? Well, and I was like, the promoter did. And then he punched me again, and then he was just like, you might have just saved your effing life. And he picked me up, and he's like, take short arm clothesline. He gave me the short arm clothesline, then the DDT, pinned me, pulled the snake out, tried to get the snake to bite me. I rolled out of the ring before that was a possibility, and that was that. But then we got in the back, and I walked over trying to be professional, trying to be, hey, look, I apologize. There's miscommunication. He was just like, but you said he told you could say that. And I was like, he said I could say anything and bring up the drug. I mean, just like, he didn't tell you to call me a crackhead. And then he slapped me again in the locker room and then kicked me out of the locker room and told me I had to go change out in the crowd. So I did. I went up in the crowd and changed out of my clothes and everything. The crowd had no clue. They had people walking over and shaking my hand. Oh my God, that was great. You just took the DDT from the guy that invented the move. And I was just like, yeah, F that guy. Like, I was so mad. Anyways, I walked over and I showed him the clip in Beckley. And I just was like, hey, man, thank you very much. I just wanted to meet you again. And then I took a picture with him. I paid for the picture, so I took a picture with him. And I was just like, do you care if I show you one clip real quick? And he was just like, yeah, make it quick. And I pulled it out and I showed him. I was like, this is you and me in 07. And then I showed him. He saw me take the DDT. He was like, boom. He was like, that was great. You took the DDT perfect. I was like, thank you, man. I was like, we had a lot of issues back then, but, no hard feelings, man. I appreciate the fact that I got to work with you. And he was just like, yeah, man, I appreciate that. And he shook my hand, and we were good. And that was a huge weight off my shoulders emotionally. Not that I should have let it bother me that long. And I didn't. I got over it a little bit, but it was still like I wanted to have that conversation with him and show it to him. And the fact that he enjoyed the way that I took the DDT and put it over, I was like, okay, yeah, cool.
That's good to hear that everything's settled and closed. And
That's kind of where I'm at with everything. Like, I kind of alluded to him earlier, but like, I had the same conversation with Freddie. Freddie Cornell and I hated each other for a long time. I'm not going to go into specifics on it, but I had the conversation with him and shook his hand and just said, look, man, we're too old to be this way towards each other. And he was like, I don't have any heat with you anyways. And he shook my hand and we, talked. He actually talked about booking me at one point. It just didn't, it fell through. But I got no heat with him anymore. That was another thing. That's a big focus for me. Is anybody that has heat with me, I don't want to have heat with them. I don't want to heat with anybody. I want to care about like I said, my family, my kids, all that, my girl, all that stuff. That's what's important to me. So like anybody else, I don't care if you like me or not, but I would prefer people to not have a terrible opinion of me. So, and it was pretty justified sometimes that some of them did. So that's why I have apologized to a few and tried to make amends with them.
Well, that's awful adult abuse stuff. I have one more question. I know you mentioned Will earlier, and we had mentioned him a couple times in the podcast. Scott was so wonderful. GQ was so wonderful to put together a memorial for Will last year. If those of you that don't know, Will Clement, he was a really good friend of all of ours. He was family, and he suffered from some mental illness, like so many of us do. Unfortunately, we lost him to that. Is there anything you'd like to say? I know you said that you might try to plan another memorial for him.
Yeah, I want to make it a yearly event. He loved wrestling. He loved the Lord, and he loved everyone that he ever met. So I don't think anybody's more deserving than Will to have his memory kept on something like that. So that's kind of why I still that's one of my main things I want to do is I want to keep doing shows for Will. I at least want to do one per year, and I want to do the Memorial Battle Royal for him every single year because I want people to know how great of a man he was because anyone that knew him knew how great of a man he was. And that was a lot of the reason. So we're definitely going to get together and work on that if that's cool because I would love to keep doing shows for him. Like I said, I've been helping out. I told you anyways. I've helped out a local wrestling company recently that's getting ready to start up. I am their evolution champion. That's what this championship belt's all about.
Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you. I wanted at Cabway Lingo State Park. It was a fun show. But yeah, I'm trying to help them with their ring and everything. So they're basically going to work with me and get me a discounted rate or give me the ring for free, so that way we can do that for Will. Because
That's incredible. Yes.
And that's a focus for me. There's not a better man that I've ever met in this entire world than Will, and that's why I'm very adamant about keeping that alive.
Will definitely was. He was walking love. I never knew anybody that didn't love Will. I never knew anybody that Will didn't meet that didn't know that he loved them.
And the minute he met them, he loved them like family.
Exactly. Yes, he did. The very first time I met him, it was like, "Hey, sis, how you doing?" And from that minute on, from that moment on.
Like I went to Beverly Hills and Huntington High with him, and he and I hung out a lot at Beverly Hills. And then Huntington High came along, and there was a space that was right next to there was a training room that was just for physical fitness, and there was just a little cubby area there. And then I sat there with him and a few of our other friends every single day for about 2 years straight. It was. That was one of the things about me is I've always been. I'm trying to be friends with everybody. I've always tried to like everybody and be cool with everybody. So I had my group of friends that was Will and a bunch of our friends that were all just the nerdy friends. And then, I also hung out with the football players and I played football a little bit and the amateur wrestling a little bit with that. I didn't stick with that like I should have. But Will was always the one that I came back to. And Will was, even then, one of the sweetest guys in the world. He's a giant. That guy, if he wanted to, could have hurt anybody. But I've never seen him hurt a soul, and I've seen him be there for so many people that didn't deserve his love, and he still gave it to them because he's Will. And like I said, he loves the Lord. So that's why I love that man so much.
He's definitely a soul that is, will always be missed and always be loved regardless. And he had the best hugs ever done.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And the
He
way
was-
he lived changed so many lives. He touched so many people.
Yes, he did.
People that would never step foot in a church, he would touch outside of the church
Yes.
and show them what love was, you know, what God was. He was
So we'll get together and we'll work on that.
absolutely.
Dustin, did you have any more questions, Mr. Q? No?
Okay,
The neon enigma.
who's, oh, sorry, Mr. Ford, let's see how quick her face turns red. Who is your favorite wrestler in HCW that you've seen the last 2 times you've won? Say it a little louder.
The Hollywood vampire, Ella Jax. He's a good dude.
Oh, Jax. I think she got a picture took with him and, yeah.
That's really cool. Tyler Jack's out there, shout out, bud.
Yeah,
You got a fan.
he's getting
White
really
goals,
good.
man.
Like he's getting really legit. And that's the thing. Like wrestling's so much better than it used to be. Like a lot of the local shows used to be like you would have like one talented main event match,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd have like maybe a tag team match that was okay, and then you had one guy that was decent and one guy that was horrible facing each other, and it was like there weren't that many great shows back then. We all worked hard, but the amount of untrained talent that were trying to get on shows, and a lot of the bookers that were running the shows didn't have any money because there was no money in the business at the time, so they weren't making money to put money into it. So there weren't these like lighting setups that people have now. There weren't these big screens. There wasn't big presentation. It was a guy walking through a door in a gym and coming out and not having significant training a lot of times. And now, because of how many wrestling schools, because like I said, social media, as much as I hate social media, that's one thing that's a positive of it is that people communicate more. So now people that love wrestling are getting into wrestling, getting legitimately trained. So like even on the local level, a lot of these times you'll get some really good talents. Zayden Kane.
Yes.
Zayden Kane's a great wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Some people may not like him personally or whatever. I don't have any heat with him. I love him. But at the same time, heck of a talent, ton of potential. Like I think if he had the right eyeballs on him, he has the place where he could move up. If he keeps his attitude in check and everything, then he's great. There's him. Drex Dyer, gosh, yes.
Funny story about Drex Dyer. Shout out, Bobby. Did he not, what was it? Did he not suplex or power slam you that one time?
Death Valley Driver.
Death Valley Driver.
He gave me a Death Valley Driver, and I was 40 pounds heavier than too. So, yeah, dude is super strong, elusively strong, and elusively quick.
He is agile, and he's pretty agile and pretty quick.
So, like Drex Dyer, Jack Sharp, who used to wrestle as Jack Ram Lethal, Keith Purdue. That guy has all the potential in the world. Then there's younger guys like Gen Z that's coming up that I think has a ton of potential. If he's got the character, he puts his money into it, he puts his time into it. He's building a good merchandise resume. He's going to seminars like he should. He's doing everything the right way. I think that like Gen Z is another guy that has a ton of potential. There's a bunch of guys. Noah Ray, one of the best Haas wrestlers in the history of the area. Like I put him up there with an Eric Steele. Eric Steele was one of the best in the history of West Virginia, in my opinion. If there's a West Virginia Hall of Fame, Eric Steele should be in it. And then there's guys that are actually making it now or starting to, build a good career for them. Like There's a guy wrestles as Beastman, Wes Fetty. I know he's not everyone's favorite, but he's getting his name out there, and he's putting his money into his gimmick. He's getting over, and I'm super happy for him. I've got to say, I mentioned the Bluegrass WrestleCon earlier. I ran into him there. I was happy to see him. Darkstorm was there. Darkstorm was one of those guys that should have been signed. Phenomenal talent. Like, it's one of the guys I grew up knowing. I went to Beverly Hills with him too, and used to listen to WWF The Music Volume 2 on the bus on the way home. Because
On the
we
wall,
were,
had like a little headset,
Yes.
the anti-skip. Yeah.
yeah, the anti-skip CD, but it
Yes.
still skipped no matter what when we hit a
Yep.
thing on the bus. But I just remember sitting there listening to DX music with them and stuff. So yeah, WWF Music Volume 2 with them. Chance Prophet, those guys. I grew up in the business with those guys. I love them all. But I see these guys like I was saying, Beastman, doing well. Then I got to, like I said, I was at Bluegrass Con, and it was a big honor for me just because even though like I'm sitting there with another group of guys like Tyler Jackson's right next to me, Gen Z was with me, Loco the Clown, one of the old 304 names that was one of my favorite guys, one of the best hardcore guys, and a sweetheart. He was there, and of course the promoters of Combat Championship Wrestling were there, and that was their booth. And I'm sitting there, and it kind of hit me that I'm sitting there, and like it's a huge appreciation for me because me being the little kid that I used to be, I'm sitting there and I'm looking over, and literally right at the table next to me is Ernest the Cat Miller, who I loved.
wow.
And then next to him is Tito Santana. And then next to him is Virgil, IRS, and Ted DiBiase.
Wow.
And then on further down, I'm looking over, I see Larry Zbyszko, I see Kurt Angle, I see all these guys, and I'm like, man, I'm sitting here signing autographs and looking at these people that are here, and they're there for them, but I'm a part of that, and I'm like a peer at this point. Like, I may not ever be at that level. Obviously, I'm never going to be at that level, but that's fine. I can accept that. But I love the fact that I got to at least be there and have that experience to be sitting there with all of those legends. And then, like I said, Beastman was across from me on the other side. And gosh, all the names and everybody that was there, I was just like, it was awesome for me.
Well, it's
So
well deserved. Because when I tell you all, like Amanda was talking about earlier, when you go to these shows, they put on a show. I mean,
It's worth every
it
penny.
is.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's
your
not
time.
expensive. Generally, what is admission for HCW? Do you know?
I believe it's 10.
$10 per person. Wow. I can tell you this much. I've lost $10 or spent $10 on something way less meaningful. And
Same, but I'm not going to go into that. I'm in church. I better not.
Yes.
Well, and two, like we were saying, it's more personable. I mean, I saw some stuff there that was like take my breath moments. I mean, you, Ryan, I mean, me, yeah.
When you get called to the back to do a consciousness check on somebody to see if they've had a concussion or not, that's usually my job when I'm there.
Yep.
Yeah, that.
Shout out to Jerry Cage.
You and Ron Reed.
Yes.
When he went over the top rope, I think me, you, Destiny, I think we all quit breathing for a
Yes.
minute. I mean, that was
When you see your husband launch himself between two ropes, probably what, 6 feet up, 7 feet up, horizontally into a crowd of people, you get a little scared.
And when the guy that's on the ground isn't sure that it's happening and doesn't know what's happening, he turns around and he's just there.
Oh, hello, my friend. No. It is. It's some scary moments. I will tell you this much. My husband never fails to scare me every time he wrestles. I have been in the business. I know what it's about. I will tell you this much. Fake is the farthest word from it. As a wife of a professional wrestler, my heart stops every time he wrestles, without a shadow of a doubt. And it's not that he's being unsafe or anything. It's just that's what he does.
Yeah.
So.
But he is safe.
He
and
is.
he's very smart, and it's, but he's always great to work with. He always, whoever's in the ring with, he makes them look better than they really are. That's one compliment I'll always give for him. Chris Phoenix, highly underrated. Like, like that dude, especially in his prime, was so agile for a guy his size. And like he was one of the legitimate wrestlers before legitimate wrestlers were in the local indie scene in a lot of ways. I mean, there's always been legitimate guys. I don't mean any disrespect to anybody. Lord knows Johnny Blast and a lot of the
Johnny
other,
Blast, side note, Johnny Blast was my mentor for years in the business.
Aw.
He is one of the, believe it or not, sweetest people in this business, and
and he's hilarious.
he is absolutely hilarious. We used to have a thing that said, Johnny Blast doesn't hate you, he hates everybody equally. But that was him being just old school, putting a lot of younger kids in their place, the ones that wouldn't set up the ring or put in cater dues or whatnot. He would throw somewhat of a fit at the time. Nowadays, in his semi-retirement, he has calmed down quite a bit, bless his heart. But love you, Johnny. Miss you.
Yeah, that's one of those guys. I tried so hard to get a book to where I could work with him. That was the original opponent. Like it was supposed to be Ryan Reed and him versus me and Russell. And last minute couldn't make it because his ride couldn't get him here. So we called in my good buddy Chris Phoenix. And while I still want to work with Johnny Blast one more time, it was awesome to get to work with both of my brothers in the same match. Hear the Money Team music again. I kind of marked out for that a little bit. And it was awesome to get to work with those guys. Those two are like my favorite people ever in the world. So, other than of course my kids.
And your mom.
Mm.
Your grandma.
No, I'm joking. Mom. I have the best mom in the world.
He really does. The things she's put up with.
The things anyone in my life has put up with. So, just being real.
So, sir, what all you got coming up?
Again, just to recap, you can see GQ live at HCW, Huntington Championship Wrestling. Also, you said CCW is to be determined upcoming.
It's July 8th. I don't know the venue yet.
Okay, we will post the venue and the description of all of these upcoming shows in the description down below. Keep your eyes peeled out for it. And like I said,
Okay, it's at American Legion 1. Sorry. American Legion 177. That's the only reason I pulled up my phone, just to see if they'd sent the response back to me. It's the American Legion up in Barbersville.
Okay.
July 8th. Okay. Bell time at 5:30 p.m. It's all general admission, and it's that's going to be all like families are welcome, but it is going to be more of a mature show, adults type thing. So we're going to be allowed to be a little bit more loose with our tongue when we're talking and stuff like that. So it's going to be a fun, different experience. I'll be probably defending this right here. I have no clue who against, but this is not my goal. This is just my accomplishment right now. They've got the main championship belt that I have to defend mine successfully 3 times before I'm the #1 contender for that championship automatically.
Wow.
So the whole goal with this is to keep it, defend it, so that way I can cash this in and go towards their main championship. That's the goal, that's the plan, and that's exactly what I plan to do. So whoever their main champion is, I think right now, it's Zayden Kane. Don't think that I'm going against you, and don't think that I can't beat you. I can. I am, and I will if I step in the ring with you. Just giving you a heads up.
Wow. Those are some fighting words. So, yeah, we will have all the descriptions and all of the Huntington locations, everywhere you can see GQ, we will have posted in the description down below. Again, don't forget, keep your eyes open for flyers, for banners. Go to your local indie promotions. Go to these shows. Go have fun. It's always fun. It's always a blast. So any final words, comments, questions? Madam?
Looking forward to seeing you on the 28th.
You gonna be there?
Yeah, I will
Are
be
you
there.
gonna be there? Are you gonna be there?
Yeah.
It's like, probably not. You should.
Yes.
Me and
You
Jared
should be
Cage will
there.
be fun.
Yes.
You guys should all be there.
You're wrestling Jared Cage?
I'm wrestling Jared
Okay.
Cage, one-on-one.
I'm bringing a mat. Before we cut up, the last time I saw Jared Cage, his head hit the tile floor from the top rope, and that was so scary. But anyway.
And with the mental problems he probably got from that, I'm planning on capitalizing on that and winning this match.
Okay.
So,
But I
but,
definitely need to be there then.
yeah, so I guess I'll say thanks for tuning in, guys. What was the podcast called?
Keep it real.
The Keep It Real podcast. I'm GQ, your guest. These are your hosts, and we'll see you soon. And that, my friends, is cute. Hashtag.
Bye, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe for these people, these fine people.